so much that Boko Imama can fight. It's not even, to be honest with you, he can fight really well. It's that the guy just takes control of the rink. And I'm going to share with you a pretty cool example of that I covered in a road game this past season. Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates. Same place you found this. Now, I've never done this before on Daily Shot of Penguins. I'm actually going to replay something for you from the March 26 episode from Tampa, Florida. The Penguins lost that game to the Lightning 6-1. And what follows is about a 4.5-minute segment of that show. Third period comes along. It's 6-0. If you're the Penguins, you're trying to do, or not trying hard enough to do whatever just to save some face. And it's about 5 minutes in, and Boko Imama appears to lose his mind. Appears to just go off the reservation. He's chasing Brandon Hagel around the rink. When I say chasing, I'm talking about from one end to the other. I'm talking about a slash to the ankle, another slash across the leg, a shove to the back of the head, another slash, a knockdown push. This is all while Hagel's just trying to skate away, mind you. And then a final, rabbit punch with the left hand to the back of the head. As Boko's going to the box, I'm looking across the rink toward the bench to see Mike Sullivan just letting the invectives fly, okay? F-bomb after F-bomb. Now, I don't know if he's thinking what I'm thinking in the moment, that, wow, how can you just lose control like that? Because that's not who Boko's supposed to be. That's not his reputation. He's tough. He's anything but timid. But he also is known to have real situational awareness. So here I am thinking, okay, Boko's been thrown in the box and the head coach is furious, whatever. And I'm completely wrong about everything. I mean, 100% of everything. And that includes being wrong about what I thought Boko was trying to avenge out there. See, Hagel, in the previous period, had put a hard check into Matt Grzelcyk into the Pittsburgh end boards. And Grzelcyk went down, and it didn't look great. He was apparently struggling to take a breath. He was down on all fours for a while. The athletic trainers come out. Everybody's starting to surround him. Heck, Hagel went over there to see if he was okay. And eventually, hockey players being what they are, Grzelcyk didn't even miss a shift. But guys have long memories in this game. A lot longer than just a period. So I'm making what I thought was a logical conclusion. Nope. I go into the locker room and I get some standard stuff that I need to produce my written content for DK Pittsburgh Sports. And I make eye contact with Boko. And you know how sometimes you can just tell when someone wants to be chatty? Well, I could tell. So I approach him and I say, he just wasn't going to turn around, was he? And I was referring to Hagel not once even acknowledging Boko's existence as Boko was chasing him all over the rink. And Boko said, no, he really wasn't. And it's then that I tried to actually figure out what happened. And I began, somewhat awkwardly, I'll confess after the fact, by sharing with him what I just shared with you, which was that I thought Hagel had put a clean hit onto Grzelcyk, made sure his shoulder was aligned, and even if the final effect wasn't side to side, that was the clear bodily intent, if that makes any sense. And he cut me off. He goes, no, wasn't that at all. He said, it was the same period. He's running around. He's still looking for more hits. I mean, it's 6-0. And I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't see that at all. But he did. And he does. It's part of who he is in his role. The game's out of control. He can't afford to be out of control. But he also doesn't want to see the other team taking extra liberties on top of what's already on the scoreboard. So he sees Hagel doing what the hockey players refer to casually as running around, and that means seeking out hits. Maybe it's to bolster their own hit numbers. Maybe it's to just show the coach who they are. Maybe it's just who they are. One way or another, it's 6-0. Just finish the game out. Or we'll make it uncomfortable for you to finish the game out. We talked for a little while longer. He expressed in much stronger terms his disdain for that type of behavior, and I walked away with a single thought. They can't let this guy go. Well, they didn't let this guy go. Recording's over. It's me again, as in me now. Kyle Dubas signed Imama to a contract for the coming season worth $775,000 at the NHL level. That gives Imama an opportunity to extend a professional career that'll be entering its 10th season. He has spent all but 31 of those games in the minors. Of his 31 in the NHL, he split those between the Penguins, the Senators, and the Coyotes, totaling 2 goals, including one really nice one he had this past season at PPG Paints Arena. Bar down beauty. If you've seen him, you don't need me to tell you that he can skate, he can keep up with the action, that he's big and physical, not just in the fighting sense. He will separate people from the puck. He'll sometimes separate people from their senses. But that other facet, I would not have had a better way to share with you that trait that he brought to the Penguins late in the season, that they, beginning with the captain of the team, loved. Sidney Crosby loved having Imama around. As you could tell from my intonation at the end of the recording there might have been a mutiny in that locker room if Dubas hadn't done what he did. But Dubas, to his credit, read the room, like really read the room and understood what was happening. Now, the question becomes, well, there's a couple of them. One is, does Dan Muse have any use for a player like that? He could say anything right now, but what's the relevant thing will be what he actually does as a head coach. Another thing is whether or not you feel you can get enough versatility out of Imama to get him involved in, say, the penalty kill, and thereby commit a 4th-line spot to him. And then on top of all that, he's got to earn his way back onto the roster. And he knows that. He and I had a really good talk after his season-ending injury one night up in the press box. And he knows he's going to have to battle. He knows he's going to have to do things in certain settings that other players aren't asked to do. But he's not only willing to do that, he's not only eager to do that, he is passionate about doing that. He feels this is his landing spot after a whole lot of bouncing around the hockey universe over the past decade. And I would love to see this guy get that opportunity. When we come back, J1Q. Today's J1Q comes from Hank, who says, DK, do you think it makes more sense to hold on to Erik Karlsson to see how he fits in with the new system, or would you still think it makes more sense to trade him? I'm on record, Hank, and this is completely independent of coaching, schematics, or anything, as saying that both the team and the player would be happier if there were a trade. I don't think Kyle Dubas could have made that any more obvious than with some of the remarks that he made about Karlsson in his end-of-season press conference. I don't have to wonder how Karlsson feels about it. That's all I'll say on that subject. And it's just taken on the air of one of those better for all concerned kind of scenarios. However, as I've also been saying for quite some time, this is a very difficult player to move. For one, as everyone got to see whenever he was moved from San Jose to Pittsburgh, he has the no-movement clause, which means he can veto anything that he doesn't like. Now, maybe he wouldn't be as picky at this stage of his career, but I've got to guess that if Dubas approaches Karlsson and says, hey, what do you think about Chicago, man? Huh? Chicago? Yeah. That's not going to go so well. Also, there's the not so small matter of having to move an 8-figure cap hit over this year and next year. And on top of all that, if you're a team that's doing any kind of diligence in advance of a trade, and you saw the way he carried himself over the first half of last season. Now, in fairness, he was opening up with an injury. It did take him 10, 15 games to really get going, and I understand that. But that wasn't explaining his struggles, heading into Christmas time, right around when the former Swedish NHL player Johan Garpenlov, an administrator over in Sweden, now ripped Karlsson publicly and said he shouldn't be included on the Four Nations roster. Karlsson all of a sudden just magically upped his game in Pittsburgh, and then he went to Four Nations and was wonderful, and he's probably going to replicate something like that in the coming season because Sweden's obviously going to be a participant in the Olympics in Italy in February. So it's not as simple as saying, hey, Dubas, just trade this guy. I don't know that he's going to be able to pull that off. So regardless of what I think or what you think, Hank, the notion of whether or not it makes sense just automatically works its way well down the list. Now, as far as a system goes, and these are going to be impossible questions to answer until we see Dan Muse put players on ice in front of him and have them doing things that involve game circumstances. But my feel on this, and I've expressed this a ton over the past couple of years, to a degree on Karlsson's behalf, meaning just trying to share with you how it is that he's seeing the rink and how it is that he's feeling about how he's being used. It really wasn't systematic with Mike Sullivan. That wasn't a problem. Heck, if you think about it, any system that doesn't just suggest but instructs the defenseman to be part of the attack and move the puck quickly and all that other, that's all right in his wheelhouse. What wasn't there, what hasn't been there from the beginning for Karlsson is what he had in San Jose. Now, the Sharks were terrible, so there's an important asterisk to this. But the Sharks would have a bunch of guys just go to the front of the net, and Karlsson would use them almost like, I don't know, like he was banking pucks off fire hydrants to get points, and a lot of points, as in 101 points, enough to win the Norris Trophy in the season before he was traded to Pittsburgh. Well, he comes here, and this shouldn't surprise anybody who's watched this team, but there's not exactly a sequel to Patrick Hornqvist hanging around here. So all of those things that he'd been doing in his career in San Jose and before that in Ottawa were, wasted, at least from the perspective of producing points. And if you have Karlsson on your roster and you're not getting him to produce points, why is he on your roster at all? So that's not a system thing. That's a roster thing. That's a having your main guys do different things thing. Like when Sidney Crosby eventually, this was about halfway through the season, Sid started going to the net and just lining himself up. He would just plant his blade. You might remember these, for Karlsson to just shoot it off of the blade. Beautiful goals, but it's not something you're going to get out of one of the most talented players in hockey history on a regular basis. Sid isn't anybody's fire hydrant. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. We're going to do another one of these tomorrow.